Hello, and welcome to Your Place, a video magazine with informative chats with newsmakers in automotive retailing. I am Dennis McGinn, founder and chief executive officer for vehicle recondition and communications company RapidRecon. 3 times a month at Your Place, we visit guests at their place of business to engage in conversations about the issues shaping the car business. Today, we're talking about used car best practices with Ed French of the consultancy Autoprofit, a dealership performance improvement company. Ed is also a used car dealer. Ed, I know you've promoted a trade-in practice you call appraisal effectiveness, and last November we had a chance to talk about this on Your Place. And since then, there's a lot of new news, but not a lot of moving forward. And I wanted to ask you your comment on a conversation that I had yesterday with a person that I've known for quite a while, who is a multi-store general manager for what is now the largest public auto group. And he said that recently they've had a lot of discussions with their OEM, which is one of the 3 Detroit operations, and they don't seem to be making any real progress. They keep talking in circles about when they're going to get inventory. And I'm talking about new cars. And so they're not getting any trades. And that's obviously really hurting them. They're just having to scratch around for trades. So I'm wondering what you're seeing out there, because there's been optimism, but I haven't, but they're getting a little pessimistic now. I don't know if you're hearing the same thing. So what do you think?
Well, I think that the private seller market is very robust, and I think that the disruptors have grabbed onto it as well. And I think that what dealers have to do, Dennis, is simply this: to create a larger scope of appraisal effectiveness. You've got to look. You have to change your mindset. You have to look at every vehicle that's driving down the road today is a potential acquisition for you. And most dealers don't think that way. Most dealers think that, well, I need to source from the auction, or I need to source from my service drive, or I need to source from my equity mining tool, or whatever the case may be. And you have to cast a much wider net today if you're going to remain volume centric in acquisitions of used cars. So there are 3 major things that dealers have to consider, Dennis. Number one, you've got to departmentalize acquisitions. You can no longer have it as somebody's job when they get around to it. It has to be departmentalized. You have to have assigned people to do it. And you have to look at every silo, so to speak, of where you could go to acquire vehicles. So whether it's private sellers, whether it's improving your SEO strategy and SEM strategy to be first and be found and be favorable when it comes to a consumer that wants to dispose of their car. Heck, I'm in Florida. Dennis, I've got dealers that are working estate sales where there are cars where customers are, the customer passed away, and there's estate sales where cars are being bought that way. There are cars to be acquired. What we mentally have to come to as dealers is, if it's driving down the street, it's a potential acquisition target for me. If it's not on my lot, I want to try to figure out a way to buy it. And if you have that mindset, all of a sudden the scope is wider and you have people assigned to do it. And the next thing you know, you're acquiring more cars, as opposed to, woe is me, I don't get any trades. You're right, we're not getting as many trades. However, we're going to get 1 million more new cars in stock by the end of March. Where we started January with 1.2 million, we're going to have 2.3 to 2.5 million new vehicles on the ground by the end of March. So vehicles are being built. And yeah, you're right. The big 3 are probably the furthest behind, General Motors being the furthest, but there's Chrysler inventory and there's Ford inventory, and dealers are really trying to pre-sell and grab that trade and all that implies. So we have to look beyond what our normal channels are and cast a much wider net. That's the simple answer, along with profit centering it, and then really measuring with metrics where we are actually getting the car. So those are the 3.
Yeah, I hear a lot about buying centers that are being set up. I guess what would you, if you were, you're obviously a dealer, you've got your own
Yep.
dealership. Uh, what would be if you were going to just try and optimize that? Who would you pick in your operation? What kind of person would you pick, and kind of what tools would you give them to go out and get as many cars as they can?
Yeah, I actually have a buying center within my operation, and the profile of the person that we're actually looking for, Dennis, is someone that's technologically savvy. So think of the folks that work at Best Buy. They're young, they're millennials or younger, Gen Y, Gen Z type of employee. They're technologically savvy. They understand how consumers think, and they're not afraid to pick up the phone or work with a consumer online. Most of the consumers that we have that come through our buying center, we've searched for them through third-party sites. So whether it's a third-party classified uh, situation where we've got a Kelly Blue Book buying center. We've got a vehicle acquisition network that
Yeah.
works that scours third party listings. And then we've optimized our search engine optimization and search engine marketing to create where we're found and favorable when consumers want to dispose of their car. Consumers want to dispose of their car, they go online to see what it's worth. And what you have to do is be able to connect with those consumers. So the profile of the customer is simply this: very technologically savvy, upwardly mobile. In other words, they understand how consumers think, and they're certainly very more type A, blended with a type B employee, where they're willing to. They understand the power of an email, they understand the power of a text message, and they understand the power of face to face interaction.
The so
Not
in
necessarily
no
salespeople would be my point, Dennis. They're more customer
okay.
service oriented. Yeah,
Okay, got it. Makes a lot of sense. And they just start reaching out in all kinds of ways.
correct.
And of course, the pricing is I'm sure a big issue. Everybody expects these days, if they're watching anything at all, that their cars are worth a lot more. And of course, then you've got to both get the car get uh, take advantage of the marketplace, which is pretty healthy right now. It seems that
Right.
the dealers are still making way over their usual gross. And
Correct.
then, of course, you got to get these cars reconditioned. And any thoughts about, you know, the timing and how do you move from a whole bunch of possible acquisitions and people wondering what their cars are worth to getting those cars sale ready and on the front line?
Well, obviously, the I'll start at the beginning. The easiest way to separate the customer from their vehicle is to provide an outstanding experience. It can no longer be the experience that you would traditionally have thought of, where a manager from a retail automotive store comes in and gives them a number and hands it to them on a piece of paper. It has to be an interactive experience. It has to be collaborative on how the value was established. In other words, it's not just a one-way street. It has to be collaborated with. The consumer's actively involved in the what I call the assembly of the trade value. And once that happens, it's a heck of a lot easier for the consumer to mentally separate themselves from the vehicle. So now we have the vehicle. Uh, what we do is we sort those vehicles by market day supply, and we also sort them by where it fits in our core vehicle inventory grid. So, what we're looking for are the ones that, quite frankly, are the lowest hanging fruit. Those are absolutely put to the front of the row. We're not running a delicatessen, so it's not next up. We're sorting these vehicles on a hourly basis. And the vehicles that we believe can turn the fastest, we're putting those right through Recon and hyper focused on the level of reconditioning. It's pre-populated with a dollar amount, and it's sped right through. The ones that have a slightly higher market day supply or may need a little more recon, those vehicles are put on a lift immediately. Having a remarketer actually look at the vehicle with the technician to get some semblance of what we're spend. We give, again, pre-done dollar amounts, because the biggest stop point or the biggest friction point for a vehicle that you've spent a lot of money on when you acquired it is, oh my gosh, I spent too much money, now I don't want to recondition it. I go the exact opposite way. I say, listen, we've spent this much money. The only way to get our money back is to make sure that this is what I call a faultless car, meaning it's ready to sell and we can't apologize for it. There's no apologies needed, and it's completely transparent. So low hanging fruit goes in first, low market day supply, high demand fits in our core. That car is right through, the motor isn't even cold, and we're headed towards Recon. And then the second one is a remarketer gets the dollar amount already spent to spend on the vehicle. We collaborate on that quickly, and goes right into our RapidRecon workflow, and away you go. And it makes it a heck of a lot easier, especially when you're not buying a car at the auction and they come back on seven of them come back with either drivers or a truck, Dennis. So, these are one at a time acquisitions. And to be perfectly frank with you, what we found with the private sellers is the cars are in pretty darn good shape. Because most customers, Dennis, take pretty good care of their car. I mean, there's a few that don't, but it's more cosmetic than it is mechanical, Dennis, frankly.
Yeah. What from what you've seen, how much is going on where the car, where they know a car, they have an opportunity to acquire a car, but it doesn't fit into their retail strategy? What is there? Are they consciously buying cars that they know they can't retail and they're going to
Yes.
end up? Okay.
Yes.
So,
I've got several clients that have buying centers as well, and I've got a very few that are very selective, because their mindset is, I'm only wanted to fit in this little box that I have for retail. And what I've encouraged them and evangelized all my clients and our store as well is, let's buy everything, because there is a source for disposal for us to utilize, whether it's a lower volume retail, meaning priced differently. In other words, we're not going to get that maximized gross, but we are going to retail it, or we're going to wholesale it. So the minute you begin to pick and choose, as opposed to have a buy everything mentality, is the minute that your people begin to narrow their focus. It's a little like customers, Dennis. If you said, listen, I only want to sell the ones that have really good credit and don't have negative equity, all of a sudden you took about 75% of the customers out of your sales. And so you got to look at it the same way when you're buying a car, Dennis. You got to say, I want to buy everything. And if I only wanted to buy the ones that I knew could sell quickly for the maximized gross, I left 80% of the cars that frankly have a waterfall. I look at a car, it may not fit in my box, but if I price it correctly and merchandise it correctly, I know it's going to sell. And I stand a really good chance, and I'm going to get another trade, and I'm going to get some finance income. And that's what I call the waterfall of a car deal. The minute you let that car go to somebody else, you turned off your waterfall. So I'm encouraging everybody to look at it more broadly, as opposed to, it only fits in my box. Or if it doesn't fit in my box, I can't use it. And look at all your sources for disposal.
Yeah. Do you and your customers try and look at the destination for those units, and then make a different reconditioning decision?
Yeah, there's a lot of times where if we know that the vehicle is potentially destined for non-maximum retail, we'll have a lower level good, better, best recon process. So it
Okay.
doesn't fit into the good; it fits into the good as opposed to the best, or it fits into the better as opposed to the best. So levels of tire depth, check the brake parameters and see what pad life is left. We may leave a minor scratch on that vehicle as opposed to making it perfect, and then price it accordingly to the level of reconditioning that was done. And that's been very effective. I've got some dealers that have even branded the level of reconditioning that they do. We've got a prime level. Okay, well that means you couldn't find anything wrong with it if you tried. And then you've got select. Well, select is a little less perfect, but the vehicle is priced according to the condition of the vehicle. And then
Okay.
I've even got I've got a dealer in Michigan that's a client of mine. He's got a whole division which he calls fixer uppers. Fixer uppers meant, well, we put it through reconditioning and we found out that it won't break in half when you drive it out of the door, but yet it's yours. And he sells 50 a month fixer uppers. That market is alive and well, and most dealers run from that. He's separated it. He's got 3 salespeople. That's all they sell. They don't sell any of the other vehicles. And it's been extraordinarily profitable for him. So, levels of reconditioning, the propensity to sell. So that low market day supply car, Dennis, shoot, it's going to be prime all day long. But that higher market day supply where it really may not fit in my grid, that's probably going to be select.
What maybe kind of one last thing I'd like to get your feedback on. Recently, through this relationship we have with Auto iPacket, we're learning the value of building transparency
Yes.
through customers looking at the VDP, okay, and
Yes.
seeing not just the Carfax information and the window stickers, MSRP, and all that they would like to know, and they seem to be getting, those buyers seem to be more particular, looking for more specifics and things like that. But
Correct.
we're starting to put the reconditioning out there in front of everybody, and even get it delivered to their doorstep through
Right.
their email or their texting, and so they can study the whole thing. And
Yep.
I, it seems like the market for more information for the buyers is a big deal. They don't want to hear it from the salespeople. They want to
Right.
do it on their own. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely spot on. A couple of things are happening in the marketplace. We've got inflation that is pretty high, highest level it's been in a lot of years.
Yeah.
To stay current today as a consumer, $100 a month more. And if you're spending $300 a month more just to stay even, you've got to make sure that when you purchase a used car, that you're not going to have to budget for additional spend. And I see this as a trend where consumers are absolutely going to want to validate the condition of the car because of the compression of their budget. It's tied directly to the affordability factor of a used car. So in other words, if you're a consumer and you know that the used car prices have gone up 30 some percent or almost 40% year over year, so you're paying a premium to get the used car, and your budget has been compressed by an average of $300 just to stay current with where you were in 2021. It's not optional anymore, Dennis, to where a consumer has to then find out later that the car needed this or it needed that. They're looking for a reduced cost driving type of vehicle. And a reduced cost driving type of vehicle has to be one that they're completely confident that the vehicle is ready to go and that they're not going to have to spend any money fixing it up or getting it up to a standard after they spent almost 40% more than they would have 18 months ago. And so, frankly, you take the combination of the economic factors and the affordability factor, uh, dealers are, we're just going to have to make sure that the consumer knows that the reconditioning of the vehicle is actually as important. It's the value story, frankly, because you can't really sell, you can't sell, you can no longer sell a used car on price, Dennis. It has to be sold on value and condition. So if dealers are going to be successful in 2022, they're going to have to be completely transparent with the reconditioning that they did to the consumer. It has to absolutely be easily read, easily available. And I don't mean just a copy of a repair order, because those are really hard to gather what actually happened. I'm talking about the easy to read summary of what you did and why it's important for the consumer to have it.
Yeah. Yeah, the Maroney version of reconditioning. I hear that
Yeah,
all the time.
exactly. Yeah,
Nobody
there you
wants to
go.
look at repair orders with nuts and bolts. Uh,
Right. No,
so,
yeah.
so that's really good. Thank you for your insights on that. It looks like NADA is bearing down on us here really quickly.
Sure
We're
is.
running around like a bunch of crazy people, making sure we've got booth this and duties and
Right.
and rooms and enough food and that kind of thing. So, but as you know, there hasn't been one in a while. So this is going to
Right.
be pretty new experience in a much bigger place with all
Yep.
kinds of people. Never been a bigger one. So I'm hoping to get a chance to catch up with you out there
I'll be
at
there.
NAD. So um, it's going to be. I know I'm going to have to probably have a little transplant after that's over with the nonstop things that are going on. But I'm very
You'll be
excited for it.
busy. Yeah. Well,
Learn always.
Dennis, I think that NADA is we're all optimists in the beginning of the year, and NADA is a place for all of us as retailers to gather new ideas, meet old friends, but most importantly, figure out what the rest of 2022 looks like. And the rest of 2022, you've got to audit your processes, you've got to get your resilience checklist ready. You've got to really review your unique selling proposition and your value prop. That would be my recommendation. If you go to NADA as a dealer, anybody listening to this podcast, think about what your unique selling proposition is, and does it fit with today's new consumer? New meaning the previous to 2020. A lot of dealers haven't adjusted their unique selling proposition or their value prop. So as an example, as we tie this out to, transparent reconditioning, a value prop has to be that has to be part and parcel of how we sell a used car, because that is, again, as I mentioned, you can no longer sell them on price. You can no longer say, listen, we're priced below KBB. You've got to sell them on
No,
this car isn't going to cost you very much to own and drive.
yeah, yeah. I think if you're a price shopper, you're going to go probably going to go a different direction, and all we are going to see are the value shoppers that used to be
Yep.
highline buyers, but now it's all over. I mean, it's
Yeah,
just
it's
about
transferred to
everywhere.
every
Unless you,
vehicle. You're right, Dennis. And
yep,
and I don't
yep,
care whether it's an $8,000 car or an $80,000 car. They're looking for the value, and the value is in the condition of the car, because you can no
yeah.
longer really justify the price. You have to value. You have to validate it through the condition of the car.
That's a great insight, Ed. As always, I value and appreciate and really respect your all your insights, and you're so well connected to the industry. So I just appreciate your time anytime I can get with you, because I always learn something. Sometimes I even have something of value to throw into the mix of things, but with 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 you, I know that if I get any comments on it, it's coming uh, right from the experience, because you got your
Absolutely.
hands on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So
We're boots on the ground every day. So
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing you at NADA, Dennis.
Yep, me too. Yeah, so safe travels. Be very safe. Obviously, we're all doing the best we can with this thing
Yes, sir.
and working around it when we have to. But I'm very excited for 2022. I mean,
Me too.
it's the market's not, you know, it's definitely not coming as fast as long as people would like, but it's forcing us to think more and be more creative and actually be more transparent. I mean, that word
No
transparency
question.
is just kind of, everywhere that I see now. People
Right.
want more information about what they're buying, and they want it on their own terms. In other words,
Yep,
they want
absolutely.
to know it on their own terms. I
You
think
bet.
Amazon has spoiled us all. So,
Yeah. Well,
okay.
transparency and frictionless should be the marching order for every dealer in the country.
All right. And so, Ed, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you,
And
Dennis.
I'll see you very soon.
All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you.